Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview inspiring, fascinating women who are navigating aging with class and sass. I'm your host, Nicole Christina. Today's guest is Mary Fran Bontempo. She's an author, a humorist, a speaker, and soon to be a podcaster. And yeah, the first thing I want to say, Mary Fran, is in all of your talents, your titles are hysterical.
Yes, I mean, as you'll hear, some of my humor, most of it has come out of really dark places, but it always ends up being funny and relatable, and that's the key. It's one of those things where you know when it clicks, you just go, "Oh yeah, let's do
That's
something
it.
with that." Yeah.
That's it.
Mhm.
The book Not Ready for Granny Panties is hysterical, but I love your upcoming podcast title, From Hot Mess to Success.
Yes, from hot
Oh,
mess to success. It's really interesting, and it's been a very serendipitous journey. And as you and I were chatting about a few minutes before the broadcast, this kind of came about literally about a week and a half ago. We just thought, let's do a podcast. I have three wonderful friends with whom I've been in a mastermind group for a year, and I think the beauty of it is that we have this wonderful, authentic love for and relationship with one another. And other people see that energy and are constantly saying to us, "Hey, the next time you go out to lunch, call me." Well, we can't invite 150 people to lunch. So we thought, how can we do this? And we decided to do a podcast. So we're super excited about it. It's going to be so fun.
and that really comes through, that intense connection and love for each other, and that's the gold right there.
It is. Yeah, it
That's the
really is.
gold.
And I think every woman within her potential, within her village has the potential for those relationships. We're just not always willing enough to be vulnerable. And there's a measure of vulnerability that goes along with that. And my feeling is, you and I are talking about the whole aging thing. When you get to a certain point, you just got to lay it all out there. Like, this is me. This is where I've been. Yes, it has been quite a journey, but other people have similar stories. So let's all just keep holding each other up as we move forward.
That's a lovely idea. One of the things I talk to folks about, and I know that this is something you've thought a lot about and written very articulately about, but my clients, they have done really beautiful work, caretaking, nurturing with their families. We're all familiar with that. They have probably been really hard, loyal workers and all of that, and they get to a point, even though they're bright and educated and competent, where they start looking at 50, or they're on the other side of 50, and they're just stumped.
Absolutely. And I think they're exhausted too. And one of the things that I talk about when I talk about this whole aging concept and as we move forward is that the self talk piece of it comes in because we've been defining ourselves in a certain way for decades. You've been somebody's mother or somebody's spouse or the daughter or the friend or the whatever, and consequently you've been in those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to recognize that it's okay to tweak all that and to change it up a little bit and to redefine both those roles as you move forward and maybe take on some new roles for yourself. Take on some stuff that's fun. I mean, honestly, we go around once. What have you got to lose at this point?
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you are a big advocate of challenging your negative self-talk. Where did that come
Yes.
out of? That sounds like a psychotherapy
I
kind of track.
know. I oh boy, could you and I have a time in a session, Nicole?
Yeah.
You would have a time with me. Well, as I shared with you privately before we started recording, I was in a really, really dark place a number of years ago. There was a whole lot of stuff. I was in I say a whirlpool of mess. I had um, the economy was tanking, so our family business was threatened. My newspaper jobs were drying up because the internet was exploding. I was
Hmm.
turning 50, which at the time I thought was a disaster. Boy, I wish I could get that number back again, but I can't.
Right.
So but the worst of it was my son was in the throes of heroin addiction. He
Mm,
is in recovery. He's doing incredibly well right now. But at the time, it was just the darkest place I could have
mm,
possibly been. And we were in it for a long time. And there
mhm,
came a point, and I think this happens with every crisis situation. There comes a point at which you realize you are going to lose yourself in it if you don't make some kind of a change.
mm,
So, in the middle of all of this stuff, I was actually lamenting to a friend one day about the whole aging part of it, and I said, "Oh, I'm so not ready for granny panties." And the writer in me perked up, and I went, "Oh, I can do something with that."
uh-huh.
So I started a blog because in my mind, a step in any direction as opposed to total inertia was a win.
Mm,
And,
mm,
from that, I just started to tweak my self talk to be like, okay, this is a change, but it's not the end of the world. So let's see how we can move forward through this. And
mhm,
little tiny baby steps um, just moved me eventually to magnificent places, but it's a process. And I think people need to
mhm.
understand that.
Absolutely. Now, I'm just thinking about, again, forgive my, psychotherapy mindset, but I'm thinking about in the darkest crisis, you did what you knew. You did what you were good at. It was
Hmm.
almost, sounds like it was a way almost to anchor yourself and say, I can still do this. My life is
Yes.
falling apart, but damn it, I know how to write.
I know how to do this. Yeah, I actually taught a workshop this past weekend, and in this country we've been raised with this weird sort of puritanical thing where we feel like if we're not really struggling at something, it doesn't have value. We have to work hard and sweat. And my feeling is we should all be doing the things that come naturally to us. Those are our gifts. Those are the things that we received from, our higher power or however you want to look at it, that are the things precisely that get you through. They are the things
Mhm.
that you've been given to rely on. So figure out how in those crisis times, how can you fall back on your gifts, those things that you love, those things that are important, and help you
Mhm.
move forward through that crisis with your gifts.
Like an anchor almost, like
Yep,
you're getting blown away in the typhoon, but that's one thing that you can hang on to, and be
exactly.
sustained.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really interesting because you and I think have done a lot of talking and reading and understanding about what happens in middle age and how women can really blossom. Um, and many people that I've talked to and read, there's almost always pain and loss.
oh, I think that's inevitable. It's part of the human experience. If you think you're going to be the first person to get from the beginning to the end of this journey without experiencing that, well, sorry. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you're not. and and I think if we accept and recognize that, first of all, it's part of it. Second of all, every single person that you meet either has or will experience some of that. It's also a way to share with people and to bond with people and to continue to expand your village and to make those connections that really are ultimately what it's all about. The best friendships that I have ever had have been formed within the last 5 or 6 years. And
And
that's amazing.
yeah, when you were going through your son's heroin addiction, did you form a village around other parents whose children were struggling with addiction?
That's a really interesting question. I am not by nature a joiner. I'm not I was not the one who went and joined the support groups and all of that for the simple reason that I didn't want to live in that space when I didn't have to. So if I had some free time, the last thing I wanted to do was go to a support group and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, though, what ended up working for me was to have my close group of friends who knew what was going on. I didn't talk about it necessarily with them, but they knew that they needed to support me. They knew that we needed to have fun. And that's what I did when I had those opportunities. So I really think it's also important for everybody to realize that there's no playbook here. You don't experience something and then, well, here are the steps that you take to get out of it. You do what
Mm-hmm.
works for you. If you're a joiner and joining a support group or something works for you, then do it. If you're not, and what you really need to do is sit on the couch with a glass of wine and a big fat chocolate chip cookie and watch
Mm-hmm.
3 hours of Say Yes to the Dress, then do that.
Mm-hmm.
But do what works for you and don't be hung up on I should be this, I should be that. Should and shouldn't are two of the words that I say we have to get rid of from our vocabularies.
You're really talking about resilience here,
Mhm.
and talking about how, as we know, I think the Buddhists have really gotten it right, that life is a lot of suffering and loss, and you can't argue with that. So you might as well not even try, right? So the idea is, how do I, sort of accept it and do what you're talking about? What do I need now? What I need
Right.
now is to sit and watch Netflix and
Right.
eat something yummy.
Exactly, and that's going to change. That's going to change depending on where you are. Any given day, as you know as well as I do, even in the best of times. Some days you wake up energized, other days you wake up and you want to pull the covers back over your head. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we just have to be respectful of ourselves and where we are and stop feeling like if we're not doing XYZ, then somehow we're failing. To my mind, if you get to the end of the day and nobody has to pour you into bed, you actually climb into it yourself, that's a win. I mean, that's to me, that's a win. So we just have to stop beating ourselves up when certain days are days where all we do is watch a 3 hour Say Yes to the Dress marathon, and that's the most we get accomplished. So what? You'll do
So
something else tomorrow. So what?
it'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's, of course, a lot written, especially now for adolescents who are living on, digital media and looking at these sort of perfect, sort of seemingly optimal lives and bodies and that. And what is your thought about that? Because you're saying, listen, that life doesn't look like that. Life looks at times really ugly, and that's fine. Do you have a sense of, or do you have any thoughts about this whole, almost like a Facebook phenomenon where we're looking at all of the greatest hits?
Well, you literally just hit on one of the dirty words. You literally unknowingly walked right into one of the things that I talk about all the time, and that is that we are as a culture addicted to superlatives. You know,
Mm.
if it's not
Mm-hmm.
amazing or fantastic or incredible or awesome, we
Or
think it's a
awesome,
big fat
right?
fail. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not a fail. And fine, the word fine has become a dirty word for us because we equate fine. It used to mean a thing of high quality, like a fine garment or a fine wine. And now we equate fine with failure. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Most days things are just going to be fine, and that's okay. We
Mm-hmm.
accept fine. If stuff doesn't reach the apex of experience, every single thing that you do, and really, here's what you have to remember, kids. You when you take a picture of something, what do? Do you immediately post it on Instagram? No. You edit it, you crop it, you add a filter, you saturate the
Mm-hmm.
colors. You are creating something that didn't exist in the first place. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
doing that, everybody else is doing that too. What we're seeing is the edited version of life. It's not real
Mm-hmm.
life.
Not
It's
the outtakes.
yeah, we're not seeing the outtakes. We're not seeing fine. We're seeing what somebody does after they edit life. Life
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, we don't have the opportunity to edit life all the time, and we shouldn't try. My gosh, that's exhausting. Just, sometimes you just got to go, yeah, well, that wasn't great, but it was fine. I'm moving on.
I'm
There you go.
curious. There you go. There it is, right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. I'm curious. Do you do? It sounds like you do this, and I don't know if you call it this, but in my world, we would call that a type of mindfulness.
It is mindfulness.
And
And
acceptance of here it is, let me savor it up and down, and it's real life.
exactly. It is exactly mindfulness. So when I talk to people about self talk, I'm not talking about that big voice that says, oh, you're not good enough. Everybody knows that big voice. What we don't know is that little voice that almost doesn't even necessarily speak to us, but it's there in our subconscious that's saying that words like fine are no good. You have to be outstanding. You can't just be fine. Yes, you
Mm-hmm.
can be fine. So it's mindfulness about how we approach the everyday moments and how we
Mm-hmm.
recognize that every single moment is not going to be fabulous. It might just be okay. And if you get the job done, then you can move towards things. And let's bring the conversation back full circle here to where your gifts are, to where you want to try to be fabulous, to where you can be fabulous, and leave the other stuff up to other people who are fabulous in that area where you're not.
Do you do you look at any cultural impact of this? I've noticed a lot when I go to play tennis with my lovelies, as I call them. You see the kids coming out and they have these t-shirts that I think to myself, this is really a US phenomenon. Like, I'm the best, move over,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like tackle you till you bleed and
Yeah.
this. And I think like who does this? And it really speaks to what you're saying. Essentially, I'm number one. It's like go big, go home, all this stuff. And I think, why can't we all just play together
Yeah.
and it be fun? Why does it have to be, I'm gonna spike that ball in your face when I make a touchdown? I mean, is that something that
Well,
you've
it,
seen?
it it you do see it, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, I think it does a lot of things. I think it comes from that idea of we all want to encourage our kids to try and to be their best and all that, but it shouldn't come at the cost of everybody else. And keep this one thing in mind. Maybe you are going to spike the ball, but maybe when you go to Starbucks and that kid's working behind the counter and you spike the ball in their face, you don't know what they're putting in your coffee.
They're gonna spike it with
They're
something
gonna.
else.
So you do not operate in a vacuum. So you have to be aware of how you treat people. You can
Mm-hmm.
win without spiking the ball. Let's just call
Oh.
that what it is. You can win and you can win inclusively. You don't Winning does
Mm.
not have to be an individual activity. When people go on TV and they say, I want to thank God, I want to thank my mom and dad, I want to thank my team, I want to thank my coach.
Mm.
It's not a singular activity. Nobody gets there on their own.
That's
Nobody.
lovely. What do you think about women and our comfort with we'll use our metaphor, spiking the ball, winning, and feeling like, yeah, look at me. I've done this. It's been really hard, but look at me go. What's your experience of women's ability to claim their power, to use a sort of a cliche phrase?
Well, it's a really interesting question because I think you see the polar opposite there. I don't think you see too many women of our generation walking around saying, "Hey, I'm going to bite your head off and then I'm going to hand it to you so you can see me running across the field goal line." I don't think we do that. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe in some ways, not that we need to do that, certainly, but I think we need to be willing to claim our wins. We don't celebrate our wins enough, and in fact, I think we tend to be too too submissive where our wins are concerned. We allow that to be taken from us, and that's something that we need to get away from. And I think the other thing is a lot of women of our age don't necessarily feel like they have a win because they're not maybe you're not a tech genius. Maybe you're not starting a school in Africa. Maybe you're not a whatever. We tend to qualify winning too differently. You need to recognize, like I said, if you're standing at the end of the day and climbing into bed yourself, it's a win.
Oh,
There.
that's such a, I mean, I can just hear the collective sighs of our
Oh,
listeners saying,
oh, thank
oh,
God.
wow, the bar, baby. That's
Oh,
what.
yeah. That bar, you just need to be able to step over that sucker. Put the pole down. You don't have to pole vault over that baby.
Oh, wow. Hey there! More of the interview in just one moment. Now it's time for a quick shameless plug for my Zestful Aging web course and my newsletter, Breathe, Taste, Savor. Hop on over to NicoleChristina.com / Zestful Aging to find out more. Now back to the show. I'm curious, in your career and as your development as a woman, have you seen yourself more able and more comfortable with claiming your successes?
Yes, and I will say that, and again, here's what I here's what I hope for when I speak to women. I hope that they don't have to go through the kind of crisis that I went through before they claim their wins. And that's one of the things that I talk to them about. Don't wait for this awful crisis. Recognize, look back at what you have done. Look at where you are. I always say to women, if you doubt what you bring to the table, write your own introduction. Whenever I go to speak places, this cracks me
Mm-hmm.
up. I go to speak places and they read this wonderful introduction of me. And whenever I hear it, I think, oh, wow, she's really cool. I want to meet her. And then I realize two things. First of all, it's about me. And second of all, I wrote it.
And
So,
it's all
and it's
true.
all
That's the best
true.
part.
That is the best part. It's all true. So if you are not able to claim your wins or you can't see what they are, either write your own introduction or better yet, have your best friend write it for you. Because I
Mm.
guarantee you, those people who love you, they know what your wins are. And if you aren't
Mm-hmm.
sure, you ask them. Do that little exercise. Write an introduction for one of your, get a group of your girlfriends together, have some wine, and write yourselves introductions for each other. You will be amazed at how fabulous you are by the time that's done.
And what I found interesting, I did that a while back. I was doing some kind of online thing about entrepreneurship. I don't remember. And I thought, I mean, I really expected it to come back certain qualities. And this is going to sound maybe conceited, but I thought, well, people are going to say she's smart, okay? Because I've done well in school and all. Nobody said I was smart. Nobody. They didn't really care that, I know how to study. They said, the biggest thing that seemed to be important to them was part of it was sense of humor, and that
Hmm.
really surprised me.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think really because something like that again speaks to your authenticity. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we've all got those accomplishments. I mean, honestly, I don't know that I've ever met a really dumb woman. I mean, now sometimes we can be in a fog. I get that with the whole hormonal thing that happens, but
Right.
there's not a one of us that's dumb. I mean, just to get again to the end of the day takes an incredible amount of resilience and smarts.
Mm-hmm.
But what it comes down to,
Patience.
and patience,
Mm-hmm.
but what it ultimately comes down to is how authentic and relatable are you to everybody else? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about connecting. It's about,
Mm-hmm.
again, sharing your gifts, sharing your strengths, and being vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm not really good at that, but you are. Can you help me out here? Can you show me how to
Mm-hmm.
do that? Can we work together? The power that comes from those kinds of engagements are amazing. And again, it doesn't end up necessarily defining you like, oh, you're the smart one, you're the this, you're the that. It just ends up being this part of this wonderful package that you create, that you present to the world.
It's so interesting because you're talking about it in terms of power, success, enjoyment, passion, but of course, the research on longevity is, boy, are you in your wheelhouse? Because it, ahead of diet ahead of exercise is connection.
Hmm.
And because we're mammals,
Yes,
if we are not in our tribe, we're going to get picked off.
exactly.
So it's not just sort of fun to go out and, as you say, have a glass of wine or share your vulnerabilities. It's actually really essential for wellness, emotional and physical wellness. So, boy, have you're really, um, talking about the gold. That those are the gold nuggets.
I think so, but and I think sadly in some ways, and but I think it's the pendulum is starting to swing, because I think I'm actually reading this book Girl Code, which talks about that culture where I think when women first got into the workforce, however many really got in en masse a number of decades ago, there weren't that many of us. So image of women was like clawing your way to the top, no matter who you stepped on. Well,
Mm-hmm.
now I think that model is shifting, and we are realizing that our power comes from being together, whether it's in a professional or a personal space. And since women are not good at separating those two things either, when we accept that we're bringing all of that to the table, we go so much further.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think the challenges are now for women really sort of owning their power, owning their strength? Anything in particular that jumps out at you?
Yes, don't listen to your family.
Mm. That sounds like a whole other
That's
episode.
a whole other
That's
program, Nicole. A whole
entitled
other.
Never Listen to Your Family."
It's very hard to claim your power when somebody's telling you they don't have any underwear in their drawer. It's very
Oh,
hard, and you have to
again
do the
with the
wash.
underwear.
Again
Mary
with the
Fran.
underwear. It always comes back to the panties.
Auntie. I think that should be your tweet for the day.
Right?
It
It
always
always
comes back.
comes back to the panties. But really and truly, again, we have to understand that certain people in our lives, and often it's those closest to us, they know us in certain roles. They are often the ones who are most surprised by our success in some ways, because they don't think of the woman who's putting the underwear back in their drawer
Mm-hmm.
as the one who's starting the company or doing this or doing that. That doesn't mean they don't love us. That doesn't mean they don't believe in us. That doesn't mean they don't support us, but they are not naturally the ones who see us in that role. So you
Mm-hmm.
really need to get outside of that and build your tribe of women who are like-minded and who are in
Mm-hmm.
similar situations, and then you feed each other. And in the midst of
Mm-hmm.
that, you talk about the fact that after you're done with this powerful mastermind meeting, you're going to go home and do the laundry, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a part of it. But when I say don't listen to your family, I mean, you have to be aware of the fact that they see you in a certain role. And until you've established yourself in another place and kind of let them in on that, they're not going to be your biggest support group because they can't fathom it.
Oh, I see. I see. So you sort of see yourself through their eyes, essentially.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the,
You're
you're
the
the butcher baker,
the
butcher baker
Scully
candlestick
maid.
maker. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. See, you're Cinderella in rags when you're with your family. You're Cinderella in the
Ah.
ball gown when you're with your tribe.
Oh, wow. Is that beautiful? Now, I can already hear people saying, okay, I've been super duper nurturer. I've, I've provided nurturance for my family, my partner, my this, my that. And I'm getting a pink slip here. Nobody needs those jobs done for them anymore. And I'm standing out here kind of lost in the woods. I don't even know where to start. And I get pushback from people saying, I don't really want to go to a meetup group. I'm shy, or I've never done that before, and I'm going to, people are going to judge me. How do we push through that kind of, you're not quite confident yet into your new roles? How do you help people push through that identity shift?
Well, I think you need to, there are a couple of answers to that, and that's a very valid question. And again, one of the challenges is how do we redefine ourselves? You've been doing this stuff for decades, so it's automatic. You don't even think about it. When you suddenly have to think about how to reinvent yourself, that can be terrifying. It can be
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. So, my suggestion would be a couple of things. First of all, find a place that you're comfortable. A lot of us are comfortable at church. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of us, we go to church every week. We are involved. We volunteer. If there's a place where you already volunteer, or if there's a cause that's close to your heart, do something
Mm-hmm.
that's really low pressure and kind of get yourself out there to meet people. If you're still not ready to go out there and meet people, this thing called the internet is amazing for connecting people. It's amazing. Find places where they're talking about things that you're interested and
Mm-hmm.
start maybe posting some comments and kind of
Oh,
engage
that's
with
great
people that
advice.
way.
That's great
Um,
advice. Yep.
it's a very soft way. There are tons of groups on Facebook where you can find something that you're interested in. And some of the friends, I have some wonderful friends out in California that I have never laid eyes on.
Oh my goodness.
And these are people that I met through the internet. So there are very low pressure ways to build your tribe. And if you're nervous, start online. And then guess what? When you're tired of it or it's starting to make you nervous, go into the kitchen and eat that chocolate chip cookie that's sitting on the counter
I love it and enjoy it
and
and have
enjoy
people,
every bite.
you know, there's a woman, you may have heard of her. She is like one of the frontier women on intuitive eating. Her name is Evelyn Tribole, and
Hmm.
she talks about when she eats something, you know, a luxury food like this chocolate chip cookie, she really does it right because she wants to just savor it and enjoy it. She doesn't want people around. She doesn't want on the TV. She wants to sit and just enjoy every morsel. And I just love that sort of visual, you know. And
Absolutely. I when I pick up those chocolate chip cookies, I go right for the big giant chocolate chip, and that's the part that
mm-hmm.
I break off first and I
That's
eat it.
right. And we have taste buds for a reason.
That's right. That's right. And we
Mm-hmm.
have to reward ourselves. We have to reward ourselves. It's so
Mm-hmm.
important to do that. Self-indulgence is not selfish, it's survival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see that that really even relates back to some of the very dark times
Mhm.
with your son, where, you know, I think it also can come down to, you know, it's him or me, right?
Oh
I mean,
gosh,
there's,
yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
actually got to that point with him, and that is where a lot of this started to really gel and take form. He was in treatment the second time. He was in rehab for the second time, and I kind of had this epiphany realization, which was that he could choose to live however he wanted. If he chose to live as a drug addict, there is nothing I could do about it. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But what I could do, and what I told him was, I could choose to not follow him down that path. And I said to him, you can choose to live however you want, and I'm your mom, and I love you, and I will follow you to the edge. But I will not follow you over, and I will not allow you to take your father and your sisters with you. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't necessarily change him. I wouldn't presume to say anything I said or did made him decide to get well, but it changed me because it set up a boundary, which is another really important word that we have to embrace as we move forward through this life. There
Mm-hmm.
comes a point when you got to cut your kids off and you just got to go,
Mm-hmm.
look, you're making these choices. Don't expect me to pull you out of this mess or follow you down this rabbit hole if this is where you're going, because I'm not going there.
That's a whole other episode,
It
isn't it?
is. We have
Yep.
about six new shows that we could do.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think that that is so true, and that's a loss. I think a loss and a freedom. It's that sort of ambivalent, like it's time to say I've done the raising I can do, and you know, peace be with you.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a loss and a freedom. But isn't so much of life like that?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, we have to recognize that if we're going to grow, we have to recognize that almost all freedoms do come tinged with a little bit of loss. But that's okay.
Hmm. That's right. That's absolutely right. Yes. Um, I think it's going to be so helpful for our listeners to take some of your advice about the baby steps and even, starting online and all that because it is, as you say, it is so scary. I mean, it's like everything, it's like we're launching too, our
Oh,
kids are
sure.
launching and we're launching, and sometimes you look down and you don't see a safety net there.
Yes.
Um,
But you know what?
so,
You
yeah.
have the safety net. We have the safety net. We just don't realize it. Our friends, those people that we count on, again, surrounding yourself with those like-minded women, and really
Hmm.
even your family or your spouse. There's someone in your world, whether it's your mother, your sister, your best friend, your spouse, the I mean the Starbucks barista who you tell all your stories to, your hairdresser, whatever. There's somebody out there that you can say, "Look, I'm thinking about doing this. Don't tell anybody. I just needed to get this
Hmm.
off my chest and, and have a confidant." There's somebody that you can share that information with. And it is scary. I'm not going to go all Pollyanna here and say it isn't. But
Hmm.
it's so worth it.
You need a cheerleader,
For sure.
absolutely. And to know that many women have walked that road, ahead of you. If you just start looking at, following other bloggers or even other podcasters talking about women making these incredible transitions
Yes.
and recreating themselves, it's very inspiring and, and relatable, I think.
And again, I'm going to go back to this, and this is really truly important whenever you're doing any of these things. Um, you can't be married to the outcome. You can't
Mm,
you can't set an expectation and say, "Well, if it doesn't work out this way, then I've failed and I'm going to crawl back in my hole under my rock." You can't do
mm-hmm,
that because any of these things that you start could go off in any number of directions. So you start the
mm-hmm,
plan, you create the plan, you start the plan, and then you launch it, and then you let it evolve. And if it
mm-hmm.
doesn't go in the direction that you thought, then be willing to take a step in another direction because you might be going down a better path than you ever thought. I never, if anybody had told me 10 years ago that I would be sitting here having this conversation with you and doing all of this stuff, I would have laughed at them because this wasn't part of my plan. This kind of just happened. But it
It's so
happened
funny
because I
that
was willing for it to happen and
you
let it.
did you did the work and then you let it do its thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
you planted the seeds. I found that too. I started this podcast because I've launched this online course on wellness, and I just got so like there was a lot of tech that had to be done. I had done my work. I had done the research. I had done the videoing. I had done everything, and the rest was just tech. And I'm just tapping my toes, going, "Come on, guys, let's get this thing up and running. Let's go." And I was just sort of waiting, and I thought, this is not me. And my tech person said, "Why don't you do a podcast?" I thought, that's a great idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
try this and see where it goes.
Who?
And you know
Yeah.
what? If whatever you're planning or you're trying, again, if it doesn't work out, something has come of that. You've either learned something, you've gone off in another direction, whatever. And it's okay to say, yeah, that was cool, but I'm not going to do that anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to put something on a shelf. You don't always have to follow everything through to some perceived or prescripted end. The end
Mm-hmm.
can be when you want the end to be. Okay, I'm tired of this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not doing this anymore. I used to do
Right.
a lot of singing. I was trained as a singer. I did tons and tons and tons of singing. And over the last couple of years, I've had some thyroid, some throat issues and stuff, but even more than that, I've kind of decided, okay, I did that already. I'm kind of done with that. And it's okay to
Mm-hmm.
be done with that. It was great, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving on. So it's okay to close chapters, to turn pages and be okay with
And
that.
there's this Chinese philosophy. I think you have to clear out the old, right, for the
Yes.
new to come in.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I think you can't hold anything in full hands. You
Mm-hmm.
can't hold anything new in full hands.
You're
So
sounding more and more like a Buddhist
I
every.
know, right? You know, it's so funny.
The
I had my
Buddhist with
girlfriends,
granny panties.
right? I had my girlfriend stay over here a couple of months ago, and they stayed overnight. And the one girl came down the next morning for breakfast, and she was like, "You have a lot of Buddha statues around here." And I was like, "Oh my God, I do! I didn't even realize it, but they're everywhere. I have Buddha statues everywhere." So I guess I have some connection to that.
I can see that. I can see that you have the modern
A
connection.
recovering Catholic with a Buddha tendency.
Oh my goodness. That's right. That's right. Well, I think you're so relatable to women who, feel stuck because it hasn't been easy. You have been through the fire,
Right.
and I think that's so helpful for people to hear. Oh, maybe I'm stuck, and I'm not the only one, and it's not because I'm a dummy or
Right.
or whatever, but this is just part of the
It
process.
is, yeah, and it's really funny because when people first see me, I'm this kind of short, like little blonde girl, and I wear makeup and I look half decent and everything, and then I tell them that I'm the mother of a recovering heroin addict. They all look at me like, "What?" So it's just
Mhm.
this. I share that story with everybody for that very specific reason.
Mhm.
I don't want them to look at what I'm doing now and the speaking and the books and all that stuff. I don't want them to look at that and go, "Oh my gosh, she's awesome." I want them to know,
Mhm.
"Hey, I was a hot mess for a long time,
Mhm.
and I just took a
Mhm.
couple of steps and here I am. This wasn't part of the
Mhm.
plan. This kind of just developed. Now, I worked it. Don't get me
Yep.
wrong, there's a heck of a lot of work that went into it,
Right.
but I allowed life to unfold. And I was willing
Mhm.
to let that happen and see where things took me. And I'm no better than you. That's the whole point.
Mhm.
I am no better than anybody else that I encounter.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a wild guess that you might be a Brene Brown fan.
I am. How'd you
I'm
know
like,
that?
well, just a wild guess. But you are just a radical, like authentic woman. You're like, here it is. It looks great, but don't
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 be
be
fooled. It's
fooled
all smoke and
because
mirrors, people. It's all smoke and mirrors.
it's I know how to put my makeup on and choose a dress.
Here we go again. I have panties that the elastic's all worn out. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
It is
that's
not a
right.
perfect package.
It's
So,
not a perfect
and it
package.
never it never will be, and I am so okay with that. That
Mhm.
releases you when you are okay letting people see that you aren't perfect. Oh my gosh, it
Mhm.
releases you from so much pressure.
Mhm.
Like, I'm
Mhm.
thrilled that I can say that to people. This is it. This is all I
Mhm.
got today. Some days it's
Yep.
good, some days it's not so great, but this is what I have to bring to the table today.
And I think also as a parent, being able to say, "Man, did I mess that one up?" And
Yes.
I'll give you a big apology because that was terrible.
Yeah, I really
Yeah.
screwed up. That page was
Yeah.
definitely not in the playbook, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And
Yep.
and and truthfully, who does?
Right.
Like, we just don't. And I think actually, to go back to another topic, one of the reasons kids today have so much trouble is because they see these scripted realities and they think that they're supposed to know what to do about
Mhm.
everything, and they can't possibly. And we didn't
Right.
know what to do. We just sort of fumbled our way through everything and we got to the end game. But they have to understand that you don't script reality. It just happens.
Mhm.
And then
And
you
the
figure it
rules have
out.
changed so much. I mean, I think when
Yeah,
we were kids, we knew we're going to go to college, we're going to get a job, we're going to have a pension. I mean, it's
right,
all like, somebody shook, it's like a snow globe someone shook,
right.
and nobody knows what the path is
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. But they'll
Yeah.
figure it out. And
Mhm.
and they have to understand that they aren't expected to do any more than that. All you're expected to do is the next right thing and
Mhm.
eventually figure it out. That's it.
Yep. 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 And throw a little kindness in and you're
Yeah.
good.
And
You're
throw a
done.
little fun in and lighten up,
Yes.
lighten
Lighten
up.
up. Yeah. Well, you are something else. You are a force to be
So
reckoned with.
so I've been told.
Yes, I can imagine.
Oh
It just
gosh.
your wisdom and your energy are just palpable, and I think people will so appreciate your story and just saying, look, I'm working. Sometimes I get it right and sometimes I don't.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
For sure.
I think
For
that's
sure. And get out
such an
there and
important.
give it a try. Join us. Get
Mm-hmm.
in the pool. The water's warm.
Getting. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. Any last things you want to put out there, Mary Fran? I know you've already dropped a lot of wisdom bombs
Wisdom
on
bombs.
us. Yeah.
Um, again, I just think it's about being authentic. It's about knowing that one of the things that I say about women is we all have the same story and we all want the same things. The details are just different.
Mm-hmm.
So once we recognize that we're really all coming from the same place, it's really so much easier to reach out and to build your tribe and to try stuff. Hey, just try stuff. Why not? If
Mm-hmm.
you stink at it, if you're really afraid, make yourself get up and sing karaoke somewhere. There is nothing more terrifying than singing karaoke if you can't sing. But once you realize you're not going to die of embarrassment, suddenly many things become possible. So you
Mm-hmm.
are not going to die of embarrassment. Just try things, and I'd love to keep in touch with your listeners. Like, look me up on
Mm-hmm.
maryfranbontempo.com and reach out to
Absolutely.
me, and I'd love to continue the conversation.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for your uh, beautiful philosophies, your hard won wisdom. It's been a real delight talking to you today, and I'll look forward to passing along your information so our listeners can learn more and hear more about your new projects too. The Hot Mess to Success podcast that I know is going to be launched in March. And
Yes.
so I will put that all in the notes.
Four chicks chatting, hot mess to success. Yep, it's going to be a lot of
Love it.
fun. And
Love
thank
it.
you, Nicole. This was delightful. I truly enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. Please comment, rate me on iTunes, like, and share. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com and tell me what you'd like to hear more about. Want more zest? Head over to NicoleChristina.com/zestful aging, where you can find out about my online course, Zestful Aging Simple and Sustainable Habits for Health and Longevity. See you next time.